here today to talk a little bit about expanding the VR ecosystem. I am with Vive Studios, so Senior Director of Content there. Vive Studios is one of our business units focused on content. How many of you here, before I start, have attended the keynote this morning? Just raise your hand. Okay, so a lot of you did. So there'll be a little bit of repetition, but hopefully I'll make it a little bit more interesting. It was a great keynote, by the way. So I just wanted to go through a quick retrospective around kind of the recent history of VR and the ecosystem around it. So we're really kind of in the third age of Middle Earth when it comes to VR. I think beforehand, we've really had to stand on the shoulders around the pioneers of VR the past few decades, who have really kind of persisted with innovation, ingenuity, and passion, and gotten us to where we are today. So this is courtesy of Tipatat, who's a great, really OG investor, if you will, for the VR fund. He puts these out every quarter or so, roughly, but this is the one from 18 months ago. So if you're taking a photo of it, it's a little bit dated. It's from October 2015. And this landscape kind of shows what the ecosystem looked like. And you know, foundationally, it was a great picture. It really lays out the bases for competing, for any kind of competing platform or medium around infrastructure, tools, platforms, and content. Just advancing ahead to about 9 months ago. So June of last year, aside from more logos and kind of a cleaner UI, you start seeing content being broken out to more buckets. You start seeing more major players in here. Then even 2 months later, in August of 2016, again, more players, more companies, and startups entering the space. So it's starting to look like a viable ecosystem. Now, when you look at this quarter, this is the most recent one. So here we are today, SVVR Q1. It looks like a vibrant ecosystem. It looks like you have enough companies, startup companies, established companies in each bucket, if you will. And there's obviously a lot of synergy, there's a lot of partnerships, there's a lot of momentum behind it from a funding standpoint. But really, where do we really go from here? How do we really expand that ecosystem? How do we sustain and grow it so that it's balanced and thriving? How do we prevent walls from forming up and instead build bridges and partnerships and sustenance for the whole ecosystem as an entire industry? So at HTC, so this will be a little bit of something that Ricard said, but we kind of started off less than a year ago with the Vive, the hardware. But Vive is more than a hardware company. We're helping to try to create the ecosystem with ViveX, which is our accelerator program. Viveport, which is our way to enable content to be distributed, marketed, published. And finally, Vive Studios. So Vive Studios, we're here to help enable great content for VR. That's straight and simple. We do that by developing content internally. We partner with second party, with other partners to do this. And we're looking to really help move the needle to showcase great killer apps in VR. So for the Vive, it's really hard to believe, but it's really been less than a year since the Vive came out. We'll be celebrating our launch birthday next week, which will be exciting for us and hopefully for you. And it's exceeded our wildest expectations from the reception we've gotten from developers, content creators, brands, enterprises, enthusiasts, and consumers. And that's really been validated from the GDC study earlier this month, where most developers, or a majority of developers, really do want to develop for the Vive first. And of course, we are thrilled about that, but we are supporting all of VR. We really do want all of VR to succeed. So again, less than 1 year in, we're continuing to innovate in areas where we believe we can help further grow the ecosystem from the hardware perspective. So this is kind of a video about the tracker and the head strap that was announced, and it's actually available now. Do you have audio? So the tracker is just, I think it's really kind of blew our wildest expectations about what's possible with hardware. It's really kind of, if you will, crowdsourcing hardware developers, accessory makers, and people who fundamentally want to create amazing experiences in VR. So we seeded the developer community with 1,000 of these trackers, and they became available for sale on Monday beyond those 1,000, and they all sold out right away the first day. So that is something, I think, again, that validates what we feel is growing the ecosystem and the potential VR experiences that can be created from it. So I can't wait to see those kinds of experiences using the tracker. And if you guys have questions of the tracker, always certainly feel free to reach out to us. So ViveX, our accelerator program, just to give you some background here, what we focus in a lot on ViveX is, again, investing in the pillars and foundations for the ecosystem that will allow it to grow and thrive. So basic services, tools, platforms, and hardware, as well as content. But things like analytics, we've had startups in advertising to help developers monetize content. We're doing wireless that came out of our ViveX program in Shenzhen. We have 4 locations here in San Francisco. Over in Asia, we have Taipei, Beijing, Shenzhen, and then we also announced at our conference this week that we'll be opening one in Israel. So this will be expanding and growing. And I think one of the basic tenets around this is really kind of investing in companies and startups that will be, if you will, force multipliers. These are companies that can help really influence and help the ecosystem grow. So once again, we really believe strongly. We're putting $100 million into this fund, and as was mentioned before, we also helped co-found the VRBCA, which is kind of a trans-Pacific partnership with venture capital firms across here as well as in China, and that's over $14 billion of deployable capital. So, we really are bullish and we're all in on VR, and we hope you are too. Viveport. So Viveport, again, this is our way to, again, help developers find more ways to monetize. You might have heard something about the Viveport subscription program. And again, this is something that we'll be launching very, very, very soon. And it will be featuring, we already have lots of developers signed up for it, but it's for the price of $6.99, you can essentially choose 5 pieces of content. If you like them, the next month you can keep them, you can swap them out. It's up to you. But it gives users and consumers more choice. It gives developers more ways to monetize. It's just, I think, beneficial for all. In addition to Viveport subscription, the arcade platform is something, again, that we're all very bullish on. I know there have been some talks about arcade here at SVVR, but this is something that's very real. It's happening now. We see it in shopping centers. We see it in retail. We see it in arcades that are popping up. There are folks here who are building 160,000 square feet arcade type installations in countries around the world. So, this is something that is a great way, again, to monetize. It's a great way to reach new audiences. And frankly, it's a great way for users to consume VR, to experience VR for the first time. We all know that room scale VR really can't be explained away. It has to be experienced. You have to try it on to really get it. And these are the ways that will help us get there. So finally, Vive Studios. So 4 months ago, we formally launched Vive Studios to support VR developers and launch showcase content across a variety of key verticals, so including games, entertainment, but with any ecosystem, content is absolutely king. If you don't have great content, you're kind of hosed. So we'll show you a little bit of what kind of games and content we've announced and launched since our Vive Studios launch. So Arcade Saga, Virtual Sports, Knockout League, and Front Defense are just some of the games that Vive Studios have produced either internally or with development partners. But in addition, we believe the VR ecosystem is obviously much more than gaming and entertainment. So education is an area that I'm especially passionate about and I'm very focused on, as well as things like healthcare. On the education side, we've partnered with companies like Lifelike to bring museums into VR. We've worked with Time Life VR to actually bring Remembering Pearl Harbor, which is a historical narrative commemorating the 75th anniversary of the attack on World War II. And these are things that are being embraced actively by schools and museums alike. So the market for education, we feel, is very optimistic about, and this is something that we're going to continue to invest in. The other verticals, of course, being healthcare, enterprise, design, real estate, travel and leisure. I mean, really, as a new wave of computing, a new medium, a new mass medium, the list goes on, and really kind of the potential is unlimited here. So one thing that we're very excited about is something that we also have here at the booth for Vive. It's called Make VR. It's something that's a project that's kind of been a passion project for 4 years now by 6th Sense and Amir. So I wanted to kind of call out SVVR because SVVR kind of brought us to 6th Sense. 6th Sense had been working on this on their own system to create Make VR, and I'll just show you a little bit of what that looks like now.
From the beginning of time, human beings have expressed themselves artistically on two-dimensional surfaces. Drawings on cave walls, carvings on rock, etchings on papyrus, ink on paper. Throughout history, the most iconic works of art have been realized on canvas, in notebooks, on walls and ceilings. The thing is, humans think, live, and interact in 3 dimensions. We're not confined to a single plane. We need space. Our eyes are even located side by side so that we can detect depth. Though technology has advanced our forms of expression with ways to manipulate 3D objects, we're still here. Screens, tablets, the same flat surfaces that have limited us for centuries. What if there were an experience that could bring our imaginations to life in the way that is most natural to us? What if we could combine technology with the most intuitive methods of construction? What if we could become completely immersed in the manner in which we create? It's time to take our limitations and break free.
So Make VR, as I mentioned, is something we just launched this week for Vive Studios. We're very excited about it. 6th Sense had been working on it for about 4 years. So the very first SVVR, if those of you who were at that event are here now, you might have remembered actually trying Make VR. Now it's finally realized, and I think this is kind of the spirit of collaboration and partnership that we really feel strongly about, is just working together as an ecosystem to bring this to reality. So we're really excited about Make VR. It is extremely naturally intuitive, providing you with a two-handed interface to basically create design in a full-powered CAD engine, anything you desire. Be able to export that as an OBJ file to a game engine or STL to a 3D printer. And this is perfect for makers, designers, and creators out there. So this is kind of really something, again, that we feel is kind of pushing the boundaries of the ecosystem, moving VR in new directions, and we're very excited about this. So before I wrap up, I just wanted to say that, again, in terms of where we are with content, we truly are in the golden age of content creation. So I worked in games for many years. Many of the folks at Vive Studios have as well. And back in the initial stages of console gaming, you had very small teams working, 2, 3, 4-person teams. Every successive generation, the teams got larger and larger. The number of man hours grew exponentially until where we are right now in terms of the PS4 and Xbox One generation. Literally, it's plus man hours of development work that needs to go into creating experience. But with tools like Unity, Unreal, just the low cost of computing, and the fact that the Vive actually is a dev kit, you can basically, anyone can start creating their own content on the Vive itself. It's really kind of a key enabler for content creation. And we are very excited about that fact that it's really easy to do it now. We've had cases where folks who just graduated from high school, they decide to spend 6 months or a year to create VR experiences. And they've done that, and they've been very successful. So we are very, really thrilled about that, actually. We're very supportive of the community out there, and we're always looking to see how we can help enable that. Vive Studios can work with any of you in many different ways, whether it be funding, publishing, marketing, tech support. So you can always reach us at vivestudios@htc.com. And that's pretty much it. Thank you. Do we have time for questions, or? All right, a couple questions. Yep.
Nicole's are from Vive. Just curious, what do you think it will take to expand the audience to, in terms of like consumers of VR?
So the question is what it will take for to basically expand the audience, for the consumer audience in VR. And that's a great question. I think that's something that all of us in the industry are trying to do every day. The arcades model has really taken off in a very unexpected manner. We kind of knew early on that in China, in Asia, that would be kind of a great way to get people exposed to VR, but we see a lot of eagerness with IMAX in Grove and other partners in the US and Europe as well, who really are bringing VR to the masses, if you will. And there'll be other initiatives that we'll probably be announcing at some point to help that as well. Yep. So demographic for users or creators, developers, users. Question is, what is the breakout of gaming versus non-gaming VR from a user standpoint? Oh, demographic. Okay. So with the launch of the Vive on Steam, we've seen obviously kind of that demographic match more of Steam's demographic, very heavily male, gamer focused. But as we kind of seen over the growth of the year in the ecosystem, that's fairly diversified, right? So we're seeing a lot more enterprise driving adoption, driving usage as well. And I think, you know, our CEO, Cher Wang, she's a woman, and the thing she always says to us is, what about the other 50%? So it's all about creating content that is appealing also for not just men, not just gamers, but the entire industry at large. Yep.
So there are so many different content categories. What's HTC's content strategy in a global level? Do you think which channel?
So the question is, what is our global strategy for content? Really, it's to enable showcase content in all industries. So whether it be healthcare, enterprise, we think games is going really well. I mean, there are a lot of AAA titles being announced. We had the Ready Player One announcement earlier this week. So we feel that a lot of non-gaming is very interesting to us and very important to us and to you. So we really want to support that however we can.
You mentioned healthcare. Have you seen, are you involved or have you seen a lot of progress in the healthcare industry?
Yeah, so there was questions about healthcare. Have we seen much progress? And yes, we have. So there's a whole track yesterday that talked about healthcare. And so VR in healthcare has been, you know, very kind of sporadically adopted over the years. There's been a ton of research about it. It's been known to be very effective, especially in kind of behavioral health and wellness situations. And so that's happening right now. So things like patient education, medical training, pre-op surgery planning, again, kind of a lot of these anxiety disorders, perhaps phobias. There's a large body of research, and there's actually a lot of trials going on at this point. And I would encourage you, if you have that interest too, we could talk afterwards, or there's a lot of literature out there. Yeah. Anything else?
Regarding the frequency of iterations of your hardware, we should expect like 5 years or 2 years for the next version of?
When's Vive 2 coming out?
Yeah.
Okay. So we are still not even year one yet. Next week will be year one. But it really kind of, one thing I will say is that we want to make sure everything is supported. So we're not going to be advancing technology until we really have, we feel it's strongly enough from a user base and from a computing power standpoint too. Because people think, oh, well, you could make rendering look better, you could have, bigger screens, et cetera, better resolution. But we want to make sure that the market's there when we do advances in those areas. So that's what I can say right now. Are there any arcades in San Francisco? There are places that have VR, and they're kind of actively trying to promote themselves as places to try out VR. I don't know if like a permanent like arcade, if you will, that exists yet, but I believe there are some in the works for sure. All right, I think we're set. Thank you.